On the early hours of April 15, 1912, the unsinkable ship sunk. RMS Titanic, one of the most famous ships in all of history, disappeared along with 1,500 innocent lives. As kids, we've all grown up hearing stories about how the ship sank, but not many have heard of the coastal city that managed to bring closure to hundreds of family members. 306 bodies were recovered out of over 1,500 people that died, 150 of which were brought to Halifax in cable ships and laid to rest in 3 cemeteries, the largest one being the Fairview. Not only that, but there are several other landmarks in Halifax which are connected to this tragic event in ways that will bring you the closest you've ever been to the grim night of April 15. So for today's video, we'll be exploring some of those landmarks in Halifax, starting off with the Fairview Lawn Cemetery, where the largest amount of the recovered bodies were buried after the sinking of the Titanic. So before I actually head over to the cemetery, I'm gonna try and find a florist around in the area because I want to buy like a few flowers, just so I'm not like showing up there just with a camera in my hand for the sole reason of shooting content. I also want to be able to pay my respects to the dead.
Hi there, what can I do for you?
I was just looking to buy like a couple of just individual roses.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You as well. I've just made it to the Fairview Cemetery, and first of all I just want to add that this cemetery isn't just for the bodies that were recovered out of the Titanic, but it's actually a huge cemetery. So there's, you know, obviously like other grave sites here as well, but they have a separate section off to the side which is just dedicated for the Titanic. So that's where I'm gonna take you guys right now and show you guys what it's like. Alright guys, so this right here is the gravesite where majority of the bodies that were recovered from the Titanic are buried. Not all of them, because I think they only recovered around 200-300 bodies, and some of them actually had to be buried at the sea because the ship they were gonna put these bodies on and bring it back to Halifax, the ship ran out of ice and coffins. And then out of the bodies that were brought to Halifax, some of them were claimed by their families, and then some of them, I'd say around 150 of the bodies were buried here at this gravesite. And as you guys can also see, a lot of these graves don't even have any names on them, and that's just because at the time of burying, a lot of these bodies were unidentified. They weren't claimed by anyone, which is a part of the reason why they were buried in Halifax and not shipped over to whichever country these people were originally from. This right here is the gravesite of this little baby named Sydney Leslie Goodwin. He was only 19 months old when Sydney lost his life along with the rest of his family, and for the longest time Sydney was referred to as an unknown child. As you can see, it's also written on the gravesite right there, and that's just because up until 2008 nobody had an idea of who this baby was. Like, they didn't know his name, they couldn't really identify the body. And then in 2008 there was a DNA test that was conducted by the armed forces, and that's when they finally revealed the identity of this little baby. Sydney is the only person from his family whose body has been identified till date, and you know, the rest of his family members, we still don't know who they are. I've been here once before, and the last time I was here I saw there was like a bunch of like little toys that people had laid out in front of this grave, and even right now you can see there's a little toy car and a rose. So yeah, I think I'm gonna put one of my roses right here on Sydney's gravesite. It's a gravesite of one of the crew members from Ireland who lost his life in the incident as well. So yeah, there's a lot of them here. Some of them have some information, you know, written on the gravesite, so I've kind of just been like reading along. So guys, it's starting to look very gloomy right now, so I have a feeling it's gonna start raining very soon, which is why I'm gonna get out of here for now. But there is one more place that I really want to show you guys, and that is the Maritime Museum of Titanic. So I've heard a lot about this place. They have like the largest and the finest collection of the wooden artifacts that were recovered from the Titanic after it sank, and these artifacts were brought to the museum by one of the 3 cable ships that were sent out to retrieve the bodies. So it's gonna be pretty interesting to check it out and also show it to you guys. very often when they get the sweetener and the cream just right. And today is one of those days. So here I am outside the museum, guys, and I also just found out that they're doing free admissions for the month of July and August. Not bad, not bad. I like free stuff. Guys, this right here behind me is a actual deck chair that was recovered out of the Titanic, and you can just see it's in pretty good shape even today. Just look at the condition of this, and it's just so crazy. Like, it's honestly just so crazy to think about it, the fact that this deck chair right here was on the actual Titanic, and the fact that it survived one of the worst ocean disasters that's ever happened in the history. And also right here we've got an actual advertisement of the Titanic departing from New York back to Southampton, and it's referred to as a trip that never happened because obviously the Titanic never made it to New York in the first place, so the return trip never happened. It was scheduled to depart back to England on April 20th, and that's what that advertisement is for passengers leaving from New York. You can see some of the prices of the tickets listed over there. Right here there's some dinner menus from the first class. There's also some silverware, some bowls, and there's a little teacup, and all the stuff is from the first class. You can also see like the White Star Line logo over there, and also for those of you guys who don't actually know, White Star Line is basically just the name of the manufacturer of the Titanic. It's like the equivalent of, like, let's say Royal Caribbean or the Carnival cruises these days. White Star ships introduced many innovations and earned a reputation for reliable schedules and luxury. What they lacked was a good safety record, and that is true, because when the Titanic sank, and one of the reasons why so many people ended up dying was because there was a lack of safety measures. They didn't have a lot of safety protocols in place. So when the ship was sinking, there weren't even enough lifeboats to save everyone. I think there were only enough lifeboats for 1/3 of the people that were on the ship. And also when the Titanic was being manufactured, they believed that the ship is unsinkable because they use so much technology. Like, the manufacturers believed that there's no way the ship could ever sink. So that's why they called it like the unsinkable ship. Also one of the reasons why they didn't care too much about adding extra safety measures. More wooden artifacts here. This is basically just the stuff from the Grand Staircase. The Grand Staircase was one of the most spectacular features of the Titanic. It was this massive wooden staircase. It was like absolutely beautiful. All these wooden artifacts that you see right here are from that staircase. Guys, so there's one more thing I want to share with you, and I just read about it. So basically, when the officials of the Titanic back in New York found out that the ship had struck an iceberg, they initially believed that somehow the Titanic would be able to make it to Halifax, which was the closest port from the site of the incident. Soon after that, they got the news that the Titanic had sunk. And in the meantime, there were already like immigration officials and like trains heading towards Halifax just to like prepare for all the unexpected arrivals. But by the end of it, the only ones that really did make it to Halifax were the bodies of the dead. So these children's shoes that you see behind me, these shoes were believed to be worn by Sydney Leslie, who was known as the unknown child for a while, and we visited Sydney's grave yesterday. And right next to it, you can see these leather gloves, and these leather gloves were actually found with the body of Charles Hayes. Charles Hayes was the president of Grand Trunk Railways, and he was actually from Montreal, Canada. I'm honestly so fascinated right now. Like, I've never really been the kind of person who's been interested in history, but just learning about this incident, learning about the Titanic, I for some reason just find it so fascinating. Check out this beautiful observation deck they have right here, just by the Titanic exhibit. Check this out, guys. We've got a beautiful view of the Halifax harbor right over there. Guys, there's honestly so much more to check out here at this museum. So if you ever come to Halifax, if you don't already live here, I would highly recommend that you come to the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic. What I've shown you so far is literally just a fraction of everything they have. I wish I cared a little bit more about history, or I would have just gone around and shown you guys more of this museum. But to be honest, I've never really been too much into history. It's just the Titanic, something about it that's always piqued my interest, which is why I wanted to, you know, come here, learn more about it, and also share it with you guys. I see they're also doing like a boat building workshop down there. So these are all just people that are visiting the museum, and they're able to help out building these boats, which is pretty cool. So last but not the least, guys, right now I'm standing in front of the Five Fishermen restaurant, which is actually one of the most popular seafood restaurants in downtown Halifax. And the reason I'm actually sharing this with you guys is because it wasn't always a popular seafood restaurant. In fact, back in the day, back in 1912, after the sinking of the Titanic, this was actually a funeral home. It was called John Snow, and there's actually like these old news clippings and photographs of this place from back in the day with like coffins of dead bodies just stacked up outside this place right here. And a lot of people till date believe that this place is haunted, although there's no proof of that. So I won't let that stop you from actually eating at this place. If you're looking for the best seafood, this is where you go, to Five Fishermen restaurant. But it just has a lot of history and a lot of connection to the Titanic incident, which is why I thought it was crucial for me to share this with you guys in this video. And guys, this should be a wrap for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to this channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.